Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for being here 8 o'clock sharp for this webinar about how to handle past losses and traumas and control your emotions. My name is Vincent Kelly, and I have been delivering webinars and seminars and promoting this particular subject that I'm going to talk about tonight for over 30 years probably now. Started in 1992 and have been promoting this subject ever since. So I have a fair deal of experience in dealing with people on this and what works and what doesn't work. So before I begin, I want to just welcome everybody to the webinar. So everybody who's on YouTube, Facebook and Instagram, if you have any questions throughout this webinar, or if you want to throw in a practical example, please feel free to put your comments in, and I've got somebody who's kindly keeping an eye on those channels who can send it back around to me. For everybody who's on Zoom, I've got you all right in front of me here. So if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to pop your question into the chat. I might ask you for an example. I might ask you for a thumbs up or a yes or a no throughout the webinar, just to kind of encourage a bit of participation, because I want to make this meaningful to you. I want you to walk away from this webinar having gained some knowledge, regardless of whatever you do after that point, but just that you were benefited from coming to my webinar. I don't want to waste your time. I want to give you something beneficial for yourself. So first of all, I'd like to ask you to practice typing in the chat. This is practice run. So for everybody who's on Zoom, would you mind doing me a favor and pop into the chat where you are logging in from? Because I like to see where everybody is. Sometimes I get people only from Ireland. Sometimes it's Ireland and the UK. Sometimes, like last week, I had Canada, I had Germany, and different people from different countries. So I would really like to see where you're logging in from so I can understand it. And also, I have a very dry sense of humor. And if you're not from around this part, you might not get it. So I'd have to work it out cleverly about how I might throw in humor now and again on this sad subject if I can. But yeah, that'd be great. So let's have a look. Mick from Brave. Mick, thank you so much for joining us again. Great to have you on board. And let's see who else we have. G Green from Belfast. Thank you so much. Great to have you. Love Belfast. Worked up there for many's a time. Belfast, beside City Hall. Olivia from Dublin. Hi, Olivia. Thank you so much for coming. Leisha from Dublin. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Paula from Carrick Macross, one of my favourite towns in Ireland. Spent a lot of my youth up there, playing in the fields, running around with cousins. Shivani from Dublin. Hi, Shivani. Thank you so much. Georgia from London. Beautiful city of London. Want to go there visiting sometime. It's been many years since I was in London. Love to go again. Nicholas from Canada. Hi, Nicholas. Thank you from all the way over the far side of the world. Much appreciated for coming here tonight, Nicholas. Roma from Whistler, BC, Canada. Now, I don't know what BC stands for. I'm sorry. You'd love to hear my humor. Okay, it might come out or it might not. It depends on the webinar. On this particular webinar, I tend not to be so humorful because it's, I don't know. Yeah, anyway, you'll find out. Dan D from Midwest America. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dan D. Great to have you. Guft from Manchester. Brilliant. Thank you very much for coming along from Manchester, Guft. Richard from Scania in Sweden. Beautiful, beautiful. Always want to go to Sweden someday. It sounds wonderful. I've seen some beautiful pictures of Sweden. And Georgia, hope you change the view so we can see my full screen. You can't see my full screen. Ah, okay. That's odd. Let me know actually in the chat if you can see, because I can see myself on full screen. But if you can't see me on full screen, then that would be fine. Oh, you can see all the participants. Ah, that's because it's on speaker view. Let me just have a look and see. And maybe I can get Dita. Dita, if you're on that and you can hear me, can you pop it onto speaker view? Yes. You can see it on participant. Let me just see if I can change that here. Speaker. Okay, does that help? Does that help? Let me know. Olivia, thank you for telling me. No change. All right. Okay, so let's see. Let me just continue to read through the comments here before we move on to that. But thank you for telling me, Georgia, because otherwise I would have gone through the whole webinar with a little tiny box with me up in the corner. Okay, let's see. And let me just see. Paula is from British Columbia. Thank you, Paula. Been to Sweden 3 times. No stray dogs there. Wonderful. Okay. All right. Let me see if I can get... Oh, Leisha's going to give me some advice on how to handle this. If you hover over the view button in the top right corner of participants, George, you can hide non-video participants. Ah. Okay, well, there you go. There's a tip. Hide self-view. Hide non-video participants. Okay. Yay. Oh, hang on. I did that for everybody, I think. I did it for I want to see everybody. Okay, Georgia, so you're sorted. Can you? Is everybody else okay? You can see me full screen. Excellent. Leisha, you're a savior. You're a savior. Thank you so much. Yay. Bula bus for Alicia. That's Irish for a round of applause for Alicia. Thank you so much, Alicia. Okay, folks, let's get started. So I want to begin this by telling you a little bit about myself and why I got involved in this. This is the subject that I'm going to be promoting to you later on. I'm going to be recommending you get a copy of this book, and there's a special offer on at the end, so you'll find out. And if you're interested, then you can get it. But anyway, my webinar is based on this book called Dianetics, means through the mind. Okay, and I'll refer to it a few times. Okay, so, and by the way, I have some notes here. So if you see me looking down, it means I forgot my lines, because I wrote this webinar for you. And yeah, sometimes I add to it at the last minute. I get some inspiration and I write it down, and I don't want to forget, so that's why I refer to my notes. So, okay, quick history about myself. As a young teenager in college or whatever, I studied personnel management as part of the business studies course, degree course in college. I was active, but nervously active. I was kind of a stressed guy. I used to be worried, very, very shy, and, you know, kind of tense and a bit all over the place. So I came across this subject in 1992, and it helped me immensely with dealing with all that. And as part of that, I dealt with severe losses that I had in the past. Okay. After that point, I felt like, you know what? Nothing can take me down. I'm going to promote this subject. I'm going to pound it. I'm going to communicate to as many people as I can about this subject, because I know it works. It's helped me. I know it can help other people. And I also got trained on Dianetics at the time as well, so I was using it to help others. But what happens when you start to reach out and communicate to the world is you tend to attract attention. And some of that attention, a lot of that attention is positive, but some of it is negative. While trying to help people to improve their lives, I have been criticized, knocked on various media channels. I have been actually spat at once on the street. I've been told I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other. And I managed to go, well, you know what? I don't care what you think or what anybody thinks. I'm going to do it anyway. And so I became very tough in terms of the things that I could deal with, the things that I could handle, the people I could talk to. I became very strong in terms of nobody could really shake me. So from my perspective, I was fine. I could deal with things in life. Everything is perfect. Until one day in 2011, when my dad suddenly passed away. And this strong guy fell to pieces. It was like being hit by a ton of bricks. A man that I hadn't spent huge amounts of time with in the previous 10 years, but that I cared about deeply underneath. My dad passed away. He was a builder. He was a really, really good guy. And for quite a long time, I was very sad. I was crying. It just didn't seem to leave me. I got depressed. I just kept thinking about him. And throughout the funeral period, actually, I got a lot of help from friends who supported me, from bosses who gave me time off, from my wife, from neighbors. This is a funny thing, and I didn't appreciate this until it happened. On the funeral of my dad, the neighbors came up and shook my hand, and it was great to see so many people there supporting. So it really did help me. So when you are suffering from a loss, and what I've experienced is that it does help to have people around. And I think Irish funerals are great because, you know, everybody gets together and supports you. And I really needed that at the time. The trouble is that when that time period was over, when a week or two passed and everybody went back into life and I went back into life, it just came back and hit me again. Couldn't motivate myself, thinking about it all the time. And I heard these words: Vincent, just get on with it. Sort it out yourself. You know, you got to move on. Time is going to heal it. It'll be grand, as we say in Ireland. It'll be grand. It'll be fine. It'll all work itself out. So I thought to myself, Vincent, you know what? I'm going to sort this out myself. It's a big loss for me, but I'm a big boy and I can handle it. So I exercised, I read books, I kept busy, I went going for walks. But anytime I stopped, it just hit me again and hit me again. And I just couldn't stop thinking about the guy. I couldn't motivate myself and so forth. And then I turned around one day and I realized, when somebody came to offer it, that I could do with some help. So let's write up this first subject of help. Okay, I could do with some help. Now, this particular word is often regarded alongside this word here. Okay? Help is betrayal. So, since I was a kid, always wanting to help other people, but somebody helping me, no thanks. I'm fine. I'll do it myself. I'll sort it out. Now, you would think that me having had so much experience with this subject would be clever enough to just go, okay, Vincent, you know what? Why don't you get help? But no, I was stubborn. I'm like, no, I'm doing it myself. I'm going to handle it. But finally, I decided to accept help. The problem with this is that when people think about receiving help, as I want to give you tonight, the suspicious thoughts start going in your mind. You start thinking, who is this guy? What's he really want to do? He just wants to sell me the book. I know, he just wants to sell me the book afterwards. Yeah, that's it. He just wants to get me into something. He wants to push his ideas on me. And that's understandable, because if you've ever trusted somebody and they betrayed you, you can also start thinking this: help is betrayal. You can't trust anybody. For example, if you get somebody in to fix your boiler in your house, right? And he comes in, he fixes it, and next week it's broken again. He comes back in, charges you more money, fixes it, and then it's broken again. And after a while you start thinking, I'll just do it myself. You can't trust anybody. Now I want to ask you your first question of the webinar. And this is going to be an important one, because it's going to determine whether you take my advice at the end of this or you don't. And you are free to, if you want or not, okay? You are free to do that. I'm just here to give you what I think. But I want to ask you, have you ever had this idea? Let me know in the chat that, you know something, you have to help yourself these days. You can't rely on anybody. You have to help yourself, because that comes from being betrayed. It comes from trusting people and from the person that you trusted betraying you. Can you please, it's the first exercise, write in the chat, has that ever happened to you, where you decided, you know what, I have to do these things myself. You can't trust anybody. You know, no point in looking for help. You'll have to go and do it yourself. Anybody had that? Okie dokie. Guft, yes, I feel better being self-sufficient. Got it, Livia. Okay, Georgia, Helen, G. Green, Iris, yes. Okay. All right. All I want to tell you tonight, based on the help that I received, okay, I'm just telling you my own experience. I got help from somebody on this subject that I'm going to talk about tonight, and it helped me extremely well, in terms of I got a permanent change and an improvement from it. So all I want to say is this, is that I'm not going to be recommending to you at the end of this that you go away and handle the situation on your own, because I don't think it's possible to completely handle it on your own. Okay, so just be open to this little statement that help is possible. Okay, that's all. I'm not saying that you think Vincent is amazing and you already trust the guy and he's a brilliant guy. Help is possible. That's all I want you to do tonight. So just open that door just a little bit and let that help flow in. Okay, because at the end of this webinar, when I go over the basics, I am going to strongly encourage you to take your next step. I would not dare to tell you to do something. Because, for example, in Ireland, we don't like, I don't know what it's like in Canada or all those other countries or in the UK or wherever, we don't like being told what to do over here. We're terrible people for that. I mean, I don't know if I speak for every Irish person on the webinar, but we just don't like being told what to do. If you tell us what to do, we'll probably do the exact opposite, or we'll just do it out of spite, or whatever it is. So I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to strongly encourage you at the end of this webinar to take your next step. Is that okay with you? Is it okay if I do that? Pop it in to the chat. Is it okay? Yes? No? Is it okay if I strongly encourage you? Okay. Thank you, folks. Thank you. Okay. Just can't rely on anyone. Okay, Shivani, I got that. Happy to look for help, but often it's better to try yourself. Yeah, the point, excellent, G. Green, excellent, Olivia. The point to make on that, Paula, is that I have found that with this particular subject, it is not possible to completely handle it on your own. You need assistance. It's bad news and it's good news. Okay? Now, next practical exercise. I would like to find out from you why you came on this webinar. If you don't mind popping into the chat your reason, just give me 2 words: interest or loss of somebody or trauma. You know, just let me, I'm interested to find out, because I want to make sure that the next piece of data I give you is going to sink home and it's relevant for you. So please pop into the chat why you came on this webinar. Is it loss of a friend, loss of a loved one, loss of a job? Is it a traumatic experience? Is it just general interest? Why are you here? And I know you're going to get something out of this. If I can get this data, I'll kind of tweak it for you personally. And don't worry, look, at the end of this webinar, if I haven't nailed exactly what you want to talk about, I'll be doing questions and answers at the end, so you can hang around for that if you like. Okay, so now if you don't mind, I just want to jot down so that I can keep it in my own mind. Excuse me. What are the points? Okie dokie. Patricia, loss. Okay, thank you so much, Patricia. Okay, Olivia, interest and help. Thank you very much. Alicia, parent. Thank you so much, Alicia. Georgia, complex trauma. Thank you. Okay, Shivani, loss. Okay, that's there again. Parent. Okay, thank you very much, G. Green. Paula, friend, has a lot of trauma. Okay, that's good. Helping a friend. Thank you. Very good. Gut is to heal. Thank you so much. Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. Need to be with people. My dog had got to be put to sleep. She's just 6 years old. I got that. Yeah. I'll tell you. Yeah, I don't want to tell you all about my stories because it's not about me. But anyway, I have a similar situation as well, Jennifer. Dog died. Okay. Okay. Iris, loss and trauma. Okay. Patricia, husband and other close family members that caused trauma for my kids. Okay, got it. Thank you, Patricia. Trauma for family. Okay, thank you so much. Helen, interest. Okay, that's perfect. Great, thank you, Helen. Okay, that's perfect. Now, folks, so I think what we've got here, we've got a combination of a few things. We've got losses from the past, helping others, which I'm going to cover at the end. I'm definitely going to cover the losses bit, and then trauma from family will fit that in as well. And I hope, and the last part of it will be general. I've got some more there. Nicholas, loss of best friend. Thank you, Nicholas. Okay. Richard, loss of money. Thank you, Richard. And Arctic, lost my remote. I see. Joke, I suppose. Okay. All right, so folks, thank you so much for telling me that. I'm sorry to hear about your losses. It is very difficult. There's no question about that when these things happen. So it's all very well to say somebody just get over it, time is going to heal it, but I have found that doesn't work. So we're going to get into this right now. Okay. Ideally, what should happen when you lose somebody close to you? Okay. You've lost a friend or a family member through death. Okay, is to shed those tears for as long as it takes. I'm all for crying it out, just bawling your eyes out for as long as it takes. Now, I wanted to say something to Jennifer early on, but myself and my wife lost our cat. Then we found our cat, but it turned out not to be our cat. It turned out to be a pregnant cat that then had 4 kittens. Now, I thought, you know what, we're just going to raise these kittens as best we can and give them away to people. Unfortunately, I got attached to one. One died. This is very recently. And I bawled my eyes out. But having received the help that I'm going to go over with you tonight, I just get over it. I can bawl my eyes out as long as it takes. And then I'm fine. I can just move on with life. So ideally, what should happen is that when you have a loss of a friend or a family member or money or a car or whatever, you do take the time to grieve. It's quite natural and it's quite beneficial and it's helpful. Just cry your eyes out. And if you've stopped crying, for example, when I was there with the kitten, I just had to say something to the kitten. I said, I'm so sorry that you're gone, and bawled again. And I'd said something else. I wish you were here. Bawled again. Things that I wanted to say to the little kitten. I know that might sound a bit crazy, but I'm an emotional type. I get close to people. So the thing is that ideally, when you have a loss, you should be able to grieve for as long as it takes until it's all out, and then you can move on. However, it doesn't often happen quite that easily. So why is it that this loss that you have just experienced recently is taking so long? It's not just taking weeks, it's taking months. In some cases, it's taking years, and you're still thinking about the person, still thinking about them, still thinking about them, still thinking about them. Okay, so let me explain this to you. In life, we're all trying to get along. We're all trying to survive. We're all trying to do the best we can. And as part of that, you store up things that you learn along the way called memories or pictures. For example, you can recall your breakfast this morning, right? Go ahead. Recall your breakfast. I'm sure you did. That's a picture, and that picture is stored in what we call the mind. And that is the very basic definition of the mind is a collection of pictures from your past, which is very exactly dated right to the beginning. And you use your mind to help you to solve things in your life. However, when you experience something traumatic, like you have a very large trauma in your family, or you lose somebody close to you, or you lose a pet, you lose a husband, you lose a boyfriend, you lose a girlfriend, you lose a parent, as I did, that pain has got a lot of force. Just as if you got a physical injury. So, for example, if you're hit over the head with a bat, that's a lot of force coming in. Similarly, if you lose somebody close to you, that's a big lot of force coming in at the one time. Now, when that happens, the lights go out to a greater or larger degree. And this thing called unconsciousness kicks in, partial or full. So, for example, if you're knocked out by a bat, you're on the floor unconscious, the lights have definitely gone out. Whereas if you lose somebody close to you, it's not a bat hitting you, but the lights will partially go out. When that happens, the memory gets stored in a separate part of the mind, which in Dianetics we call the reactive mind. So any severe losses that you've experienced tend to go in here. There are two major reasons why it is that you cannot just grieve about a loss and move on. Number one is because, and this is number one, there are things called chains. In other words, if you lose a pet tomorrow, let's say you lose your dog, okay? That's the loss of the dog, and you're grieving about that. When that happens, the rest of these things react. That's why it's called the reactive mind. The rest of the chain kicks in. So not only are you dealing with the loss of your dog, but the loss of your dog will trigger off, in many cases, previous similar losses that you had in the past, which are well buried. So maybe this is tomorrow. Okay, maybe 10 years ago you lost a cat. Maybe 15 years ago you lost another dog. And maybe here you were bitten by a dog. There could be anything on this chain, but there is a basic incident at the very bottom. So when you lose somebody close to you, it re-stimulates or reactivates past similar losses. So the reason why this one doesn't leave you, and let me ask you this, what do you think? I want to ask the first person who gives me an answer here. The reason this one doesn't go away with grieving is why? I'll take the first answer. The reason this one doesn't go away from grieving is why? According to what I've just explained. Anybody want to volunteer an answer? Yeah, the most recent. The reason why this one doesn't go away by grieving, exactly, Paula, because it triggers off the last losses. So you're not only dealing with this loss, believe it or not, you're dealing with the latest in the package of similar losses. And right down here, these are getting more buried and buried and buried. I'll give you an example. When I was starting Dianetics at the beginning, I thought to myself I had no losses. I could just deal with, I was in a session and I'd go over a few losses. But then the new one uncovered for me was a loss of an uncle. And then another one uncovered was the loss of a granddad. And I thought, I didn't think I felt anything about that. But this one was the root. The loss of the granddad was the actual root of that particular chain. So what I'm telling you is this. In your reactive mind, there are chains of losses. And when you lose somebody close to you, it re-stimulates the chain on that particular loss. Similar losses earlier, okay? If this was the loss of a person, there might be a separate chain of incidents connected with that. Okay, so that's the first problem. The second problem is this. Because you have past losses stored here, let's just take here the loss of a dog, okay? Okay. This reactive mind is designed to protect you from pain in the future. So it's designed to steer you away. And there's a great chapter in this book, which I'll be plugging at the end, called The Cell and the Organism, which suggests a reason why that is the case. The reactive mind is designed to sort of protect you from what it thinks is a dangerous situation again, or it thinks is pain, but it's an irrational part of the mind. It doesn't think logically, it only reacts. So for example, let's say you lost your dog and you had a black dog, okay, and the dog was hit by a car, all right? And now you're walking down the street and you see a similar black dog, okay? You see a similar black dog to the dog that happened before, and without you even realizing it, this incident has now gotten triggered, and the emotion from that starts feeding back in and starts affecting you. In other words, the incident starts replaying without you even realizing it. It replays beneath your conscious level. And you just feel bad. You don't know why. Yes, you've seen the dog, but you're not connecting the two because this is happening automatically. So the more reminders that you have, okay, so let's take another one. Let's take, he got run down by a bus, okay? Okay, there's a bus. And you're now working in a shop beside a bus stop, okay? So now you have two things that can keep this triggered on a temporary basis and sometimes on a long-term basis. So what I'm saying to you is this, is that when you lose somebody close to you, it gets stored on top of a chain of past losses and perhaps other injuries as well. That's why it gets stuck. The reason why it keeps getting replayed is because there are things in your environment, things that people say to you, movies that you watch, rooms that you go into, songs that you listen to, that remind you of the loss, which replays it again. So it's a little bit like you're still back there and you're still feeling the emotion. So for example, with my dad I said was a builder, okay? So I lost my dad here. Major loss for me. Didn't go away for quite a while because I thought, you know what, Vincent, just handle it yourself, you'll be fine. But guess what I discovered was my main trigger. In other words, the thing in my environment which was triggering it off without me even realizing it. You're probably going to think I'm insane, and hopefully you don't, is basically walls. Why? Because that's what my dad specialized in. He was a builder. He built walls. He was great at plastering and building structures, building houses. And so when I saw a wall or brickwork, particularly stonework, these types of things, it just triggered me off. And when I spotted that, I went, oh, that's it. That was a major release for me to be able to spot what exactly was it that was triggering me. It wasn't the home house. It wasn't looking at his photograph, although that did affect me. It wasn't listening to songs that we shared. It was walls. It was building sites. Now, I know that sounds crazy, and probably if you were dealing with a different subject than Dianetics, which is what I'm going to be recommending, which is a natural therapy. And by the way, let me just stress this point. I'm not into labels of labeling somebody with, oh, you've got everlasting sadness disorder, or you've got you're never going to get over it disorder, or you've got getting angry and feeling sad disorder, because I think too many people get labeled with too many silly labels and get recommended too many pills for problems that can be handled with communication. So I'm more into the natural, genuinely natural, traditional approach of communication that we've had for thousands of years to help people with their problems. So what happens is things in your environment trigger you off. So here's your next exercise. Can you do me a favor? That loss that you thought about earlier on, that trauma that you thought about, can you give me an example of one thing that can trigger you off? In other words, one thing that reminds you of that in your environment. Is it a song that you hear? Is it a place that you go? Is it a certain restaurant? Is it a room in the house? Is it the smell of somebody's clothes? Is it aggressive people? Is it bad news on the television? So please, next exercise. Think of the loss that you just wrote down, or the trauma. Okay, we had parents, friends, pets, family issues, money, and different things. Think about that and just write down into the chat one example of one thing that triggers you off or reminds you of that past loss. One thing in your environment that reminds you of the past loss. And please pop it into the chat. Yes, Jennifer, I understand. And Jennifer, if it's been a recent loss, look, it takes time. Take the time that you need to just grieve it out, you know. I don't think these things can be rushed. You know, it's not a 5-minute job. If you're experiencing loss, grieve it as much, get the communication going and just grieve it as much as you possibly can. Okay, Olivia, New Year's Eve, so it can be a particular time of the year. And that happens with the anniversary of somebody's death is often a big trigger for them. Richard, gambling, thank you. Georgia, intimacy. Guft, specific bus. Dita, song. Paula, loss of my dad triggered by seeing roses and sweet pea as he loved them. Thank you, Paula. And I see happy families or activities without him, moments that he can't see now. Thank you, Patricia. That's a really good one as well, because when you see, like, especially for someone who's lost a child and you see people with happy families, it's a constant trigger. Okay. Iris, when I see a family in which only one person is willing to take care of loved one. Thank you so much, Iris. The amount of things that can potentially trigger you off is immense. Now, is the solution to that to stay away from all potential things that trigger you off? Because people say to me sometimes, well, I need to go on a holiday, Vincent. I need to get away. This area is stressing me out. I need to move out of my house. I need to get a divorce. I need to go and just raise chickens in the countryside. That's what I need to do. And maybe that'll help to a certain degree. But there's always going to be something that can potentially happen again that will just trigger what you're going to carry with you. So this doesn't go away by itself. It doesn't just float away on a little cloud. Time doesn't miraculously heal it. It just shoves it further into the past. The solution is not really to get rid of all those things that trigger you off. The solution is to completely handle this fully and permanently. Before I show you what, and by the way, thank you so much everybody for that. A couple more examples, similar looking people. Thank you. Jennifer, my angry family member who loves my dog more than anything. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay. So what we've covered so far is that losses that you experience get attached on chains of previous losses, many of which are buried that you've forgotten about. And things in your environment can continuously trigger your loss. And the way to handle that is to handle this as I'll go over with you in a few minutes. Okay. So the next thing, and by the way, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop it into the chat. Okay, so the next thing I want to go over is what happens to your vitality the more losses that you experience. Okay, so everybody has got a certain amount of vitality. Okay. Now, I don't know that everybody's got the same amount Maybe people have got more vitality naturally than others, but everybody's got a huge amount of vitality. So let's say you start off in life with 1,000 units of vitality, and you need vitality in order to survive this world, to pay your bills, to get up and go to work every day, to deal with the challenges that you're facing every day. You need a lot of vitality. So there's a child who starts off with loads of vitality. Great. When you have a loss, whether it's a toy or a car or a pet or a brother or a sister, a family member or a parent or a job, or you have some traumatic experience, which in most cases does involve some element of loss, a portion of your vitality gets trapped. Okay? So let's say as a child you're doing fine and then your parents break up. Okay? That's a big loss. So 10% of your vitality is gone. So we'd say 100 units has been trapped. And then you start going out with a girl or a guy in a teenage life and they break up with you. That's a major loss. We're going to take away 100 units and there's more vitality trapped. Then you lose a parent. You love them so much and there's 400 units trapped of vitality. So as you go now, let's do a calculation. 400, 500, 600 minus 600, that leaves you with 400 units of vitality left. So if you're wondering why you don't have as much energy as you used to have, if you're wondering why you can't motivate yourself or you don't have the vitality that you used to have, this is the major reason why. It's trapped losses. Particularly losses. These are the things that hold on to your vitality. And that's fully explained in a chapter in the book called Emotion and the Life Force. You'll learn more about that there. So, I had an example. I wanted to ask you. I told you I was going to have to refer to my notes because there was an example I wanted to ask you. Can't find it. Let me see. Is it here? Maybe I could just ask you this off the cuff. I've just thought about this. Have you, this is another little exercise, have you ever noticed somebody in your life who you feel after a loss has lost their vitality, has lost their joy, their personality, their spirit? Have you ever met anybody or do you know anybody like that who has lost their vitality because of a loss? If you can just pop that into the chat. Roma, the name of the chapter is called Emotion and the Life Force. That's in the book. Okay, Iris. Guft, Dissociate from Reality. Thank you. Dan, friend Kate. Thank you. Paula, Shivani. Very good. Nicholas, thank you so much. And Olivia, your mother after stillbirth. Terrible to hear that. Richard, your friend Katie. Anybody else? Jennifer, your son after relationship breakup. Thank you. Okay. The good news is you can do something to help that person recover. And I'm not just saying recover for 5 minutes. I mean recover. Recover themselves, their vitality, their energy, their life. You can do something about it. Okay. And I know this. And obviously, I'm telling you this, and you're saying, well, maybe I believe Vincent, maybe I won't. I'm telling you this because I experienced this. I dealt with some losses using the subject I'm going to go over with you, and I didn't realize that I had so much vitality that was trapped because afterwards, the vitality came, and this was many, many, many years ago, and has not left me since. Has not left, okay? All right, so now, as I explained at the beginning, I told you there was a solution for it, and there is. But it's not something that you do on your own. It's not something that you do on your own. Like, it just isn't. I don't know of any way that you can handle this on your own. So the procedure I'm going to go over with you has to do with help. And you can get this help from a friend or a family member, and it's explained in the book. So here we go. The procedure is called auditing. The word auditing means to listen and to guide. You've got two people. One person is called the auditor. And this is the person who listens and guides. He's not a life coach. He's not there to give advice. He's not there to express his or her opinion or what you should think or what you shouldn't think and, oh, you're doing it wrong, blah, blah, blah. He's there to listen and to guide. The person who is receiving the auditing has their eyes closed. Wide awake, but eyes closed. In a quiet space. And that just helps a person to be able to return to things that have happened to them in the past and find other things. And we're not just talking about speaking about something as a memory. I'm talking about returning. The auditor is helping this person to return and re-experience what occurred and communicate it to the auditor using the exact 10-step procedure of Dianetics over and over and over until it is completely cleared. The result of that will be pain gone and pleasure back. Okay? For example, having dealt with the loss of my dad, when I think about him, I don't think about the pain of the loss. I think about the good things about him. I think about all of our good memories, of how much of a good guy he was, and all the good things that happened. In other words, it takes your attention off the loss and gets rid of the pain so that you can focus on the pleasure and the positives naturally. Now, the name of this person, they've got a little title in this procedure. It's called the pre-clear. Okay? Now, pre means before, and clear means the end result. So what you're going for is a state called clear. Okay. Now, clear isn't somebody different. It's just you back to yourself again, with your recovered vitality, with your ability to think clearly, and so forth. Now, in an auditing session, which typically lasts an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, maybe 2.5, it depends on how much is there. You can certainly handle one bad experience and get great relief. If it doesn't happen that you get great relief from that incident, there is always, always, always an earlier similar incident. Okay? And this is where I talked about chain. Okay, so we have an earlier similar incident. You do the same procedure on that, and it's communication. The auditor is guiding and listening. The auditor is not there to give his opinion. He's not there to tell him, oh no, the reason why you're so sad is because you lost your pet hamster. Auditor's job is, as we say in Ireland, doon the veil, close your mouth and listen, and then guide the person through the incident. Go back over to the beginning of the incident and go through it again. Give me any additional data you can contact. And if that one doesn't handle, it means there's an earlier one until you get down to the basic. So in a Dianetic session, every session is not just dealing with one incident, you're dealing with a chain of incidents. How do we know this? We know this because when we're in a session, when I'm in a session with somebody, I'm taking somebody in for a session of auditing, we deal with this one, it's not fully handled, but then all of a sudden, a previous one comes to light. The person suddenly remembers a previous loss. You deal with that one, and the next one comes to view. In other words, what you're doing is you're peeling off the layers of loss to get right down to the bottom of the chain. And when you've handled that chain, it's done. You're going to experience renewed vitality, back to yourself again, genuine interest, genuine happiness, and a genuine desire to get your life going in the right direction. That is the procedure. Now, in terms of going over the exact specifics of it, I'd rather that you learned it for yourself in the book and try it out. Don't take my word for it, just try it. Get yourself a copy of the manual and read it, and I'll show you that in a minute. So, the last thing I want to say on this before I go into a recommendation in terms of us finishing off, it's really important if you have a loss that you haven't cleared up, it's really important to deal with it as soon as possible using this correct procedure. Because what you're going to find is you're going to find that you're going to get an awful lot of relief from that, but you're going to find earlier and earlier things that are connected to it that you may not have seen before. If you don't handle it and you keep saying, well, you know what, I'm just going to deal with it myself, let's see how I get on, we'll wait for a few years, I'll just keep playing tennis. What happens is every time you get upset again because something has gotten triggered, that new incident will add to the pile. So your reactive mind grows if you don't handle these basic incidents. It grows, and it can grow to a certain point where you start thinking, look, you know, I'm depressed and that's just the way I am from here on out. And you set yourself up for a life of just settling down to work out death in a roundabout way. And that's just not what life is about. That's not what you're about. That's not what you're capable of. You are capable of living. You are capable of getting your life back again. You're capable of helping a lot of people. But the key to that is to clear up these things from your past which are still affecting you, but properly, doing it properly. Like, this has to be done properly. And if it's done properly, the pain is gone. It's not going to come back. It doesn't mean that you're going to forget the person or you're going to feel very cold or just turn into a robot, emotionless. No. And I can tell you that for myself. I'm quite an emotional person. I get very close to people and animals. And if they depart or leave, I get quite upset. But then I can cry it out and it's done. It's done. I can move on. You see? And that's the difference, is being able to keep your vitality and live your life. You've so much to give. Every single person on this webinar, you've got so much to give. And this is the way of clearing things up so that you can be yourself again. Okay. Now, the first step, the first thing I recommend for everybody who's learning about this stuff for the first time is to find out for yourself through education. That's the first step. Education is an empowering thing. What I want you to do is get yourself educated on the subject of the mind, preferably through this book, because I found this the most practical, straightforward, factual book about the basics of the mind, no fancy dancy stuff. And it also shows you exactly the steps that you use in order to handle this. So I'm going to do questions and answers in a few minutes, but I want to just first of all promote this book for you. So here we go. This is the book, Dianetics, the Power of the Mind over the Body. The original title is The Modern Science of Mental Health. Learn how to permanently resolve the effects of losses and traumas, lack of self-esteem, anxiety and nervousness, negative thoughts and emotions, regain your full potential, and it's translated into 50 languages on the planet. So I think you can get this in Zulu. There's loads and loads and loads of languages. And there's a beautiful glossary at the back. You will come across some new terms, but they're all really clearly explained at the back of the book. There are 3 books in this one book. Okay, let me just show you very quickly, if I can just pop it up to the screen perhaps. Okay, book 1, which is basically all about the end result of Dianetics. Okay, book 2 is about the basics of how your mind works, how the mind affects the body, what happened in the womb, how parents can pass on their stresses to their kids. Really, really interesting stuff. And book 3 is the therapy. It shows you exactly what you do to fully clear up this stuff. Okay. Now, when you get the book, I don't want you to feel that you're out there on your own with a book that you might think is just going to end up holding up a bookshelf or gathering dust. All right? You can contact me through the email address that we have sent out the invite from for any questions that you have in the book. We run seminars all the time. We've got people who are reading the book in various parts of the country and in various parts of the world, so we can connect you up with somebody who can audit with you, so you can twin up. You can come in here to our centre in Dublin, where there's a course where you can audit as much as you want for as long as you want. Various different seminars to introduce you. So I don't want you to feel like you're just left out with the book. You can just get the book, read it, and start applying it with a friend or a family member to fantastic results. If you don't have somebody to work with, contact us, contact me, or if you have any questions on it, you can contact me as well. Now, if you get this book tonight before 9:30, there is a special booklet that I want to show you. It's called The Dianetics of Grief. It's a special article written by the author of this book specifically about grief. And when you read this, you are going to go, wow, it really hits the nail on the head. All the questions that you've had about grief, why it sticks, why it isn't going away, how to handle it, get answered. Just an article from the author, absolutely fantastic. So if you get this book tonight, that booklet is going to be sent out to you free. It's a small booklet, but it'll be sent out to you free of charge, and there'll be free shipping sent out. And there will be a link going up in the chat in a few minutes for that. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I would like to strongly encourage you to get yourself educated on the subject so that you can make up your own mind if what I'm saying to you is true or false. Decide for yourself. The great thing about books is that you can sit down and you can read them in front of the fire at night, or while snuggled up in bed, and make your own opinions, make your own decisions on it. It's not all about going with something because somebody else thinks it's a good idea. You make up your own mind. But I'm here to help you. I'm here to assist you with auditors, to get you going on a seminar if you need it. If you want to do a home study course, that's fine too. So that link has gone up there now, and there it is for you. Okay, folks, so for the very last part of this webinar, I want to leave the floor open for any questions that you have. Anything at all that you want to ask, you can please pop it into the chat. I'm going to have a look at my list while you're doing that to see if I've addressed everything that you've brought up. But I think I've covered all the main things here. Let me just have a quick scan back to see if there's anything else here. So as I said, if you have any questions, please pop them into the chat and I will do my best to answer it. Okay, Dita, thank you. Roma, do you begin with the latest loss or the first loss? Okay. The thing is that as you do the Dianetics procedure, your ability to face up to bigger and bigger losses increases. So when you are dealing with this particular loss, for example, let's say your attention is on the most recent loss, well then just deal with that. Get yourself some benefit, and that will take off some stress. And the more you do that with losses that you feel you can face, you're going to be more able to face the bigger ones. Of course, it's ideal to go right down to the bottom of the chain, but often it's not possible because you need to unburden a lot of the later stuff first before you can deal with the earlier stuff. And that's explained in the book exactly how you would approach that, Roma. Okay. I see I've lost the screen there, but that's fine. We can just go back onto full screen, perhaps. Okay, so now the next question is, let's see. if you handle all these previous losses, will it help with a new loss much quicker than if you didn't remove the previous losses? Paula, the answer is yes. Now, as I mentioned, what you're dealing in Dianetics is you're dealing with chains, okay? If those chains are cleared up, when you have a new loss, yes, it's going to be traumatic. Yes, it's natural to feel sad and to cry and to be upset for a period of time, but there won't be a chain for it to get stuck onto. So it doesn't get held in the reactive mind. It doesn't stick there. It's much, much easier to grieve about it as long as it takes. And then you'll find it's much better to just get back to yourself again and be able to live again, you know. So the answer is yes, it does. Okay, let's see, Georgia. It sounds very difficult to me to find an auditor. Got it. Well, Georgia, if you have the book already, just let us know and we'll help you with that. We'll connect up somehow. There's going to be a solution somewhere. Maybe if you're living out right in the middle of Iceland, for example, and you have the Dianetics book, but you can't find an auditor, we'll work out something. Just stick with it. We'll work out something. Don't worry. And then, Dita, I just once tried to audit someone. I felt like I'm bad, but just stick to the rules. And actually, the person felt great. So just take good friend, and you're going to do amazing. Yeah. So yeah, it is true. You start off, you think, oh, I'm not going to be any good at this, but you just keep doing it, and you get better and better and better, and it goes smoother and smoother. And we're here to help you with that. Okay. Olivia, you've got the book. It's great, fantastic, great, delighted, Olivia. Dan, you've read it a little bit. That's fantastic. Great stuff, Dan. Jennifer, you are so welcome. Guft, I remember you passed over. I'm not needing to be happy in relationship. Are you doing it again? Yes, there will be relationship webinars happening in the future. I just don't know exactly when that's going to happen, but they are scheduled. Just keep an eye on the website, yourfullpotential.shop, Guft, and you'll see all the webinars that are coming up there. Georgia, you're in London. Look, it shouldn't be an issue to handle. London is a big place. We definitely have Dianetics auditors in London. Yeah, it shouldn't be an issue. Okay, folks, so I don't see any more questions coming in. I've probably answered everybody's question. If you do have any questions, please pop them into the chat. If you don't, what I'd like you to do is this. I want you to think about anything that you feel you learned from this webinar. Anything that you feel you got out of it or something clicked. I would really, really love it if you pop that into the chat. If there is something there, because sometimes you could be sitting on something, oh, Vincent, now I know why, blah, 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 blah. I really like to hear that stuff. So if you have any of that stuff, please pop it into the chat. I would love to see it. Before we finish off, anyway, folks, and thank you, Dita, for putting up the webinar list. Before we finish off, I will tell you one thing, that your potential is very good. It's huge. It's creativity. The person that you lost, the people that you've lost would not want you to be still thinking and worried and upset about the person years later. They would want you to move on. And so what I have here is the only way I know that you can get the help that you need to be able to move on as those people would have wanted you to do. And when you do, when you let go of that stuff, it's going to make a big difference. But it's up to you to decide that for yourself. And this is why I recommend the Dianetics book, because it shows you directly from the horse's mouth exactly what's going on with yourself and what to do about it. Okay, folks, so we will leave it at that. I don't see any more questions coming in. Leisha, very insightful. Appreciate you taking the time to do this webinar and answer our questions. Thank you, Leisha. It was my pleasure to be here with you. I really appreciate it. And thank you for sorting us out with our technical issues earlier on. Grateful. Paula, thanks. Interesting. All the past losses contribute to making the current loss bigger, and how you didn't acknowledge them as a loss until it was uncovered. We'll try and read it, but it's very big. Got it. Like, the book itself seems very big, but just take it one bit at a time. And when you start auditing, just, take it one incident at a time. Don't worry about it. There's a chapter in the book called The Mind's Protection, right? Which talks about the fact that, look, even if you're doing a Dianetics session for the first day and it didn't go as well as you would expect it, in 3 days things will go back to normal and be right as rain again. So there's a chapter which explains that there is the mind protects itself as well. Okay, Roma, thank you so much. I learned so much. It all makes sense. I look forward to learning further. Be sure to follow your future webinars. Fantastic, Roma. Thank you so much. Great. And G Green, you are very, very welcome indeed. Okay, folks, so let me just acknowledge everybody who's left. I'll stick you on gallery. First of all, thank you to everybody on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram for watching this video. If you have any questions, you can put comments in, or you can send us a message through our normal channels. So thank you very much to Eric for being there as a co-host, Richard, Leisha, 12345, Olivia, Roma, Georgia, Patricia, Paula, G Green, Nicholas, Guft, and Arctic. Thank you so much. Salon, Olivia. Have an absolutely beautiful rest of your evening. I hope to see you in the future, getting yourself with all the stuff cleared up and a new, renewed you. Okay, folks? So thank you very much. Have a beautiful evening. Bye for now.